Hi, I'm Lily Wigginton, and tonight I am having a little girls' night dinner party and making a little southern shrimp scampi. So, on my eye, I've got about 2 tablespoons of oil heating. And in the summer in the South, I'm really driven by what vegetables are available at local farmers markets. And so I like to take a dish that I normally make at home and add a few new vegetables into it, make it something different. So I've got my olive oil heating, and I'm actually using a Meyer lemon infused olive oil, and I've just got some sweet Vidalia onion that I'm going to dump right in, and I'm just going to push this around in the olive oil with my spoon until we get a little bit translucent. Other vegetables that I picked, and it could really be anything. It could be squash and zucchini if that's what you feel like that day. Today I went to the farmer's market and I found some great Silver Queen corn, some great sweet bell peppers, some lima beans, and some okra. And so that's what I'm throwing in. You can make this whatever you want. So here I've just cut my Silver Queen corn off the cob. I've diced multiple colors of peppers, and I've got my lima beans. And so I'm just going to dump them in as well. And I'll just stir those around, and I've already boiled the lima beans so that they're good and tender. So what we want to do is really just meld all these flavors together. We're also going to add in our okra. Be careful with the okra and always use fresh, never frozen, because it can get a little slimy. So once I've got all of those vegetables going around, what I'm going to do, I've already boiled my pasta to al dente, and I've just tossed it in a little bit of that Meyer lemon olive oil. And that just gives you an opportunity to add a little bit more dimension. I love it. This is a We Olive brand that my mama got me hooked on. She took a trip to visit my stepsister out in La Jolla in California and found this fabulous olive oil store called We Olive. And they do all of these wonderful infused vinegars and oils. And so this is one of my favorites, just because, especially in the summer, it adds so much brightness. So I've got my vegetables kind of tooled around in there. And so my tomatoes I'm going to add last because they're so tender, and I want them to fall apart a little bit but not completely. So then I'll add about a cup of chicken stock and about a cup of white wine. If you don't want to use chicken stock, I sometimes use vegetable stock. It's whatever I have homemade and fresh. Making my own stocks is one of my very favorite things to do. I was throwing away so much stuff after I was cooking, my onion peels, my carrot peels, all of those things, and I thought, what a waste. And I haven't ventured into composting in my vegetable garden yet, and so I'm still a little bit of a newcomer for that. And so I thought, what better way to use those things than to make stocks? And they're so much more flavorful. So I've got that going, and I'm just going to kind of tool that around. And then these are some Alabama Gulf shrimp, and I'm big into buying local seafood. And so what I've done is I've already peeled and deveined these, but left the tails on, just because I think that they're so much prettier that way. So I'm just going to stick those into my vegetable mix, crank up my heat a little bit, and then just push those around until they're cooked evenly and are just bright pink and ready for us. After that, I'm just going to toss in my pasta, and you can use whatever kind of pasta you want. I'm using a linguine. Sometimes I like to use a thicker noodle. Sometimes I like to use a thinner one. And it's kind of just dependent on what vegetables you're adding in. You can make this dish whatever you want. And that's why I love it. This is such a fun one for summer. Everyone loves a little Gulf seafood that's local. And so as that simmers, we've already set the table, and I've got just our 3 little seats, and I've picked a great summer rosé to go with this dish. I love a rosé in the summer. And this is the Commandery Rosé. It's a French rosé that I have just fallen completely in love with. It's so light and dry and crisp, and it really adds a nice touch to this little scampi. So as you can see, we're getting pretty pink. So I'll just flip these guys around. And this is so easy and so fresh. There's not one canned or frozen or shipped in from across the country ingredient. I guess except for my fancy olive oil. And so I've got all of these fun colors going on in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to prepare a couple of more things that I'm going to add in right after I add my pasta. I always like to add a few herbs, but first I've got some green onions. And I know that you're thinking that I've already got onions in here, but since I kind of caramelized the Vidalia onions, these green onions are just going to add a nice little brightness at the very end. So I'll just lightly chop those. I don't want anyone to get a humongous bite of green onion. And what another nice little bit of color on top. So of course, whoop, let me check on my little shrimpies. Those are doing so well. I'm actually going to go ahead and dump my pasta right into that dish. So I'll take my tongs and just kind of fiddle those around. Separate them a little bit since they've been sitting for a minute. And I'll just toss all of this right in. And doesn't that look so nice and fresh and delicious with all of those great garden vegetables and those local Alabama shrimp? So, as I let that heat and kind of simmer together, I've cut my green onions. What I'm going to do next is roll my lemon, soften a little bit, slice right through, and leave that to sit there. Then, I've got my great combination of herbs. So I'm doing some basil, which is one of my very, very favorites. And I love to just roll those little leaves up and kind of shove it on right through them. And some people like to chop these a little bit more. I love these long strings. I think they make a nice, pretty little architectural touch. And then I like to add some fresh parsley and some fresh cilantro. If you don't like cilantro, I used to not like cilantro. Don't add it. It's no big deal. Add anything that you like. That's what's so great about this dish, is that it's so versatile. And so I've got my little bit of parsley and my little bit of cilantro. So I'm going to add those right in. Add my green onions right in. Take my lemon and just go right through my hand on this one so that I don't get any of those seeds in. And then I will just kind of toss that right through. And that's really all there is to it. So what I'll do, dry my hands, and I've got 2 plates right here ready for us. And I love to use a fun, playful plate like this one. And I really, when you grab with tongs, you just really grab noodles at first, unless you're really going for something else. Then I'll grab a couple of shrimp and kind of lay them around. Kind of sliding off to the sides. And then I'll just run right around the edges and grab all, oop, dropped a few. Grab some of those great vegetables. That corn and those lima beans look so good with those peppers. And then I'll take my little bit of fresh basil and put it right there on top. And there we go, a little southern shrimp scampi with summer vegetables. I hope you've enjoyed it.